What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Dog Pound Discussions. I am Derek, and joining me today is the one and only the Cocaine Cowboy himself,
Okay, we gotta restart now.
Mr. Tony Battaglio. He can bleep that out. People. There's a select group of people who will know. I'm very disappointed in our production here. There we go. Look at that elite Photoshop right there. Look at that. You like that? It makes you look like you got some Peyton Manning action going on the way that hat's sitting on top.
Big ass forehead, yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's get into the reason we're here. Once again this week, everything changes.
The
Everything
Cleveland Browns won a
changes.
football game, bro. Holy shit.
Yeah, who knew? The Browns beat the Baltimore Ravens 20. Tony just spilled his tea. 29-24. Tony, we looked like a football team.
Right, what the
What happened?
Yeah, I don't know, man. We won a football game. We had a gunslinger at quarterback. Cowboy hat. But no, yeah, won the game. Finally, big win. It pisses me off even more that we wasted the first 7 weeks of the season. Jameis looked like a fucking dog, bro. We keep going, keep trudging forward, lead the lead the cows to pasture, whatever, saying you want to have. Whatever. We got more football ahead of us. We got more games to win. We're not exactly out of the playoffs yet. Got to keep winning football games.
You were trying your hardest to make cowboy references.
Sometimes when you get bucked off, you got to get back on and keep riding, and that's exactly what the Cleveland Browns did on Sunday, and they pulled out the win.
Hey man, yeah, that's one way to put it. So there's a lot. The Browns won, which is shocking enough. But why did we win? There's an obvious answer to that question, Tony, and that's where we're going to start. Jameis Winston started for the first time, I believe, in 2 years.
In a while, yes.
And in his start, he went 27 of 41, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Could he have had like 20? Sure, but it's still a 0.
Should have had a couple. He got lucky a few times.
He definitely did. But Tony, you go first. What are the takeaways, and what should expectations be with Jameis Winston at the helm going forward?
Well, basically, if you're not familiar with Jameis Winston quite yet, get ready for a lot of passing yards, a lot of touchdowns, a lot of what the fuck was that screaming at your TV because he almost throws 17 picks a game. But he's going to get the job done. He's going to put you in a position to win, and that is something that, speaking of, Deshaun Watson could not do. He could not put the Cleveland Browns into a position to win football games. And, no pun intended, the time is ticking on Deshaun Watson's time in Cleveland. This is Jameis Winston's team right now. In the future, it's probably going to be Dorian Thompson-Robinson's team. But I'm happy to ride with Jameis for now. See how far he takes us. Like I said, season's not over. A lot of football left to be played, a lot of winnable games on the schedule, and you might see the Browns rise from the dead and somehow make the playoffs, or at least get down to the end of the season and be in the race. No more. And that's the one downside to this. I really think Jameis is going to play us out of a top 5 pick. Either that's glass half full, glass half empty type argument, but I'm excited. I feel excited to watch the Cleveland Browns play football again. That's something I haven't felt in probably since, God forbid, excluding last season, something I haven't felt since the Baker Mayfield era, even if most of that excitement was anger.
Fair enough. Yeah, you could almost you could say this horse got off to a very rocky start and caught up. It's what we could be looking at. It's tough. We're going to talk about what it means for the future a little bit later in the podcast, but As far as this game, man, Jameis, when you watch the tape, and I sound like Kevin when I say that, or Hugh, but it's real. Like, it's a real thing. When you have watched the tape over this year, there's guys open, there are receivers running open. Deshaun was, moving himself into pressure, which didn't help an already banged up and rough offensive line. Dude, we've been saying it. Like, it's been there. And Jameis in this game stepped in and just started slinging it. And yes, did he have multiple plays where there could have been picks and you were like, what are we doing? Yeah.
Kyle Hamilton, I'm a Notre Dame fan. I've watched every game of Kyle Hamilton's career at Notre Dame. Never seen him drop a ball like that.
I think that was divine intervention on that one, because like I've never seen. Okay, so we've seen dropped picks all the time in the NFL. Never once have I seen caught, bobbled, dropped. Like
insane. He might as well have been pushing pecans with his pecker, because that was fucking nuts. That's why I can describe it.
That's crazy. But yeah, Jameis was incredible. And the one thing, Tony, the biggest thing, passing downfield. We have not seen it all year. And even when Deshaun Watson was playing well, let's give credit where credit's due. Even in the minuscule times that he was playing well, it was 5 yards, 10 yards, 7 yards. Jameis Winston came out Sunday and was slinging it. I actually have a stat for you. Completions on 15-plus yard passes downfield. Deshaun Watson all season, mind you, what did he play? 7 games?
Yeah.
Something like that? 7 games? Deshaun had 9. Jameis Winston, in one start with the Cleveland Browns, threw the ball downfield past 15 yards 8 times. Literally one less than Deshaun's season record. Nope. Goodbye, Tony.
Sorry.
Hello, Tony.
Very embarrassing from Deshaun.
Yeah. And it showed. I mean, it absolutely showed. Everything was clicking. And it even helped out in the run game, right? We've been talking about how the offense has had no run game, partially because you can't do anything downfield.
When you can't pass the ball, they're going to load the box and stop the run, and then you're, up the creek with whatever, up shit's creek without a paddle, whatever fucking expression you want to use. Howdy. Yeah. Oh. Embarrassing. That's the best way to put it. The Cleveland Browns were embarrassing for the first fucking 7 weeks of the season, and then Jameis comes in, and it's like we have been saying for weeks, and it's like we all knew all along the problem was Deshaun Watson. What do you know? And now the unfortunate thing is that this is the week that, of course, Kevin decided to give up play calling.
Mm-hmm.
They have their scapegoat. I don't know who they is. I'm sure that it's coming from above, the decision to play Watson, the play calling switch. But they still have their, what would have Watson done if Dorsey was calling plays for him instead of Stefanski? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's okay. So the discussion of the play caller change. First of all, weird timing. Like, normally when you're trying to figure out what the problem is, you don't address multiple things at once. You do it one by one. But let's put it into context. Again, this was the first 200-plus passing yard game this season. This was the first time this Browns offense scored 20-plus points this season. And, yeah, now we have to look at it as, okay, where does the credit go? Tony, for me, I thought it was very evident that was Kevin Stefanski's offense. I do think, and a lot of people have been saying, Ken Dorsey is definitely a little bit more willing to take shots and willing to be more risky. But I don't think it's completely fair to take this success on Sunday and put it as like, oh, Kevin sucks. It's Kevin's offense. It's still Kevin's offense. It's just somebody else executing it. But also, you had a quarterback who can do his job. And to me, I think there's a lot of people putting some unfair criticism on Kevin Stefanski, in a game where the offense looked good. And where does that go going forward? What would have it looked like? Had Ken Dorsey been calling plays for Deshaun Watson, it would have looked the exact same. Like, all of this would have looked the exact same because who you had under center. Jameis Winston came in and hit his guys. He threw it in tight windows. He threw guys downfield, sometimes to detriment, although he didn't turn the ball over. It could have been worse, but it wasn't. And you have to credit that a lot on Jameis. But also the Browns came in. They could have been very conservative. They could have been very lackluster with play calling with Jameis starting for the first time, but they didn't. They called their offense, and it worked out pretty well. I don't know where Tony went. There he is.
My bad. Phone call. I had to answer it back. But I agree with everything you're saying.
You didn't hear anything I just said.
I know, that was the joke. That was the joke. No, but, like you said before I got the call to go off, it was a weird timing to switch the play calling, but it worked out. I mean, it did work out. All signs kind of pointed to maybe Kevin's going to get fired during the bye week because we're switching play callers. If we win out heading into the bye week, I don't think that's going to happen, obviously. I think he'll be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns next season. I think he deserves to be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns next season.
Yeah, so let's take this into expectations. You say if the Browns win the next couple weeks, the Browns have the Chargers, then they have the Saints, and then it's Steelers, primetime football, Thursday night football in Cleveland. Tony, my take on the matter is, listen, I think there's a lot of people overreacting.
Look at that.
Yep, there it is. Yep. Someday you're going to be stuffed, and it's still going to be there. There's a throwback for you. But what was I saying? Oh, so with the next couple games, the Browns could win. Like, the Browns absolutely can be in those games. With New Orleans, with the Chargers.
Could be and should be, in my opinion.
100%. But still the NFL. I think there's a lot of people assuming the Browns are going to win 6-7 more games.
I don't think anyone's assuming anything. I think it's just like games we should be competitive in, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know. But one big takeaway on the game, there was another huge change, and that is Stevie Wills was not blocking at left tackle for the Browns on Sunday.
Stevie Wills is insane, dude.
Tell me a lie. Tell me where I'm wrong.
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. I get where you're coming from. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. And who filled that spot, you might ask? Maybe the guy that we've been saying we need to try out at left tackle for the last 2 years, and that is DeJuan Jones. DeJuan came in, first snap at left tackle in a long, long time, and he played great. Now, he graded out terribly for PFF. I don't understand where those grades came from. Tony, maybe it's a mix of Winston getting the ball out early, but I thought DeJuan played an absolutely incredible game.
Oh, yeah, your offensive line is going to look better when your quarterback doesn't hang onto the football for 8 seconds at a time. That's just a given. And that's exactly what we got, was a much better Cleveland Browns offensive line. And DeJuan Jones has been the answer at left tackle for the last year and a half. But DeJuan Jones does have issues of his own he needs to fix. But that's for another time to address. I thought he looked great on Sunday. I think they should continue to play him there. And we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people will realize how big of a deal this is. Like, if DeJuan Jones, if he plays left tackle for these next few games, rest of the season, let's just say, and he continues to play at a high level, you got your guy. like Dwan Jones is your left tackle for the future. He's under contract for another 2 more years on a cheap, dirt cheap deal. You got him in what, the 4th round? Like, he's your guy at left tackle. Did you hear what his weight was at the beginning of this year?
I'm paraphrasing here, but I believe he came in as a whole Austin Hicks before the season started. So,
You're correct.
it's like a
But
solid 400 pounds. Yeah.
actually, yeah, he weighed in at the beginning of the season. I'm so sorry that I'm forgetting his name. But Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, I want to say Jason Lloyd.
Yeah,
Um,
Jason Lloyd.
Jason Lloyd had reported
Shout
that
out Jason Lloyd.
there you go. Um, he had reported that Dwan started the year at 415. 415. And it's like, no wonder he sucked at the beginning of the year. Like, the dude couldn't move.
To put that into perspective, I'm like 240, bro. That's like almost,
Lies.
I swear to God. On the scale of me to Kyle Callahan, that's a scale breaker.
Yeah, I mean,
Barely.
yeah. Now there is positive news. There is positive news. What Jason added on to this is that Dwan has allegedly, and it looks like it, lost upwards of 40 plus pounds since then. So it makes sense why he's moving a lot better. I mean, dude, Dwan's so big, his pads looked like a push-up bra. So I mean, you cannot be playing offensive line in the NFL if you can't move. So hopefully he takes this as a positive going into the future. Because Tony, even at Ohio State, like, I heard all the time he was lazy, didn't care. We saw that in the draft process. Now that he's playing well, or he played well, if that continues, maybe he'll get serious about it. And if he does, the Browns might have found their long-term fit at left tackle.
Well, speaking of finding your fit, we're going to talk about TwoOneFits.com as I lower my brightness on my light right next to me because it's blinding me. But speaking of, find your fit. I need to find my fit with my ring light. But find your fit at TwoOneFits.com. Hoodies, shorts, pants, dog bowls, bandanas, sweatshirts, t-shirts, TwoOneFits.com. That's TwoOneFits.com, as you see on the screen. Get your Browns merch, your Cavs merch, your Guards merch, your City of Cleveland merch, your Lake Erie merch. There's probably even some Ohio State merch, honestly. I don't know. But I'm not a Buckeye fan. I don't pay attention to that shit. But yeah, find your fit at TwoOneFit.com.
Indeed. And heading into the game on Sunday, Tony, there was a lot of people thinking the Browns might have had some terrible fits at the wide receiver position. Obviously, we trade Amari Cooper, and I think, we all thought that the season was being punted on, and I still think there's players that are going to get moved.
Yeah.
But, Tony, we had not one, not two, not three, 4 receivers or receiving targets over 60 yards. Cedric Tillman, 7 receptions, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. Elijah Moore, let me say this again. This is a name you haven't heard in a long time, Browns fans. Elijah Moore, 8 receptions, 85 yards. Jerry Jeudy, 5 receptions, 79 yards. And then David Njoku, 5 receptions, 61 yards. Tony, these receivers absolutely popped off on Sunday.
It's nice when you have a quarterback that can actually throw the football, and Cedric Tillman looks like our future number 1. And just for reference, Amari Cooper had 1 catch for 3 yards in Buffalo's game.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to tell, right? Because I still think the Browns are going to, and I think should, move on from Elijah Moore after this year. I think you replace him with a draft pick, whether if that's somebody you take this year, Jamari Thrash, and have somebody else on the bench. You got to plan long term. But Jerry Jeudy, 80 yards on 5 receptions is impressive. He looked good after the catch. Njoku doing what he does. And then Cedric Tillman. Man, he was somebody that I had high hopes for. And it should be noted, he got hurt coming into the NFL. He got hurt at Tennessee. Him and Jalen Hyatt were tearing it up with Hendon Hooker. And Tillman gets hurt. And the one thing that I try to bring up all the time, why hasn't Cedric Tillman worked out prior to this with the Browns? His average depth of target at Tennessee was like 15 yards. And then his average depth of target with the Browns was like under 10. So he's not a short yardage receiver. He's somebody you throw to downfield. Guess what? We're starting to see that now. Last week he put up, I want to say 80 plus yards. This week, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like you mentioned it, Cedric Tillman.
Game-winning touchdown, mind you.
Yeah, game-winning. Tillman looks like he can be our T. Higgins. Would you agree with that?
I agree, and if we can develop Jamari Thrash and we put Thrash and Tillman on the outside as some burners, and we get some good slot receivers, I really, really think that we could have a really dangerous passing attack next year and beyond. Or even this year with Winston at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I kind of treating this the same way I am with Winston. Looked great. It looked awesome, but I want to see it consistently. Like Cedric Tillman needs to be putting up 60 plus yards every week before I think he's great.
You know how many times I preached that on Deshaun Watson and everyone told me I was being a dumb fuck? Yeah, exactly. I want the same thing. I want consistency. I'll take the one-time great performance, but if he doesn't do it every single week, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, and we got to find out for the future. Like, we're going to have to determine who is going to do what for the Browns. Speaking of consistency, we have a chance to build off of this little run we got going on here. Tony, the Browns play the Chargers. I almost said the old city name. The Browns play the Chargers on Sunday, and then we have a bye week. So this is a very critical game, because if you win this game and you look good, maybe we decide to keep some of our players and try to see what we can do. If we don't, then it could be full sell.
I could be wrong, but I believe if we win on Sunday and get some results in our favor, we'll be like, what, 1 or 1.5 games back of that last wild card spot in the AFC?
Mm-hmm. I think it's
That's what I thought, yeah. No, we're not dead yet. I'm not punting on this season if we win this game. I'm not ready to punt on this season now. We win going into the bye week, get some favorable results. We come out of the bye week and win against Pittsburgh, then we're in great shape. Yeah, we played Pittsburgh out of the bye, correct? Am I mixing up the New Orleans and Pittsburgh game?
Yeah, you're mixing up New Orleans.
All right, well, either way, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, whatever. They both have gold, yellow-ish in their color. But, no. We win, and then we go into the bye. We're going into the bye with plenty of momentum. We're far from out of this thing. There's a long way to go, and there's so much parity in the NFL that who knows. I honestly, I could see us being a playoff team if we pull off the win this week against. I almost did the same thing against Los Angeles.
Yeah, this is going to be tough because the Chargers are not. Chargers are one of these weird teams, right? Where Jim Harbaugh has kind of taken the approach of his brother, really running it down your throat style on offense. They're good in the trenches. They play well up front. I don't know. This is one of those games where I feel pretty weird about it. Like, I really don't know what to expect. I want to look at last week and assume that we're going to come out on all cylinders, but they're not a bad team, but they're also not a great team. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect from the Chargers. I thought defensively, and this is kind of another tail off to what we've been saying for weeks now, when your offense plays good, your defense plays good. The Browns held the Ravens to 2 of 10 on third down in that game. That's the Ravens. So with the Chargers, it's all we're gonna have to see. It's gonna be tough. But talking about the future, this is an interesting discussion. Very interesting. A lot of different opinions on the matter. I think we're actually going to disagree on this one. How much does the change at quarterback with Jameis Winston coming in, how much does that change the future as far as the Browns addressing the quarterback position? I'm going to let you go first.
You're still either getting a quarterback this year or next year. I don't think that changes much.
Is that all you have to add?
I mean, that's really just straight to the point. Like, what else? You got to get a quarterback just in case DTR doesn't work out. Because Winston, obviously, we've seen Winston. He'll come into Tampa Bay, he'll come into New Orleans, light the world on fire, and then after year one or year two, you settle into that mediocre, 29 touchdown, 29 interception type of seasons. That's not sustainable long term, I don't think. And I think you look to the future for a younger quarterback, or you finally give the keys to DTR.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let me phrase it to you like this. This is where we're going to disagree. Not what you just said, but this is where we're going to disagree. The Browns currently hold the number 8 pick in the draft, right? We went from top 3 to 8, just like that. At the end of the season, and this is all hyperbole, we don't know, things got to play out. Where do you see the Browns picking?
I'm going to say 16 to 20.
Whoa.
I'm telling you, we're a playoff team.
See, this is where we disagree. I think the Browns are currently 2-6. You have the Chargers, you have the Saints. Or I'm sorry, you have the Chargers bye week, Saints, Steelers, and then you're getting into, you have the Ravens again, the Bengals again, you have the Chiefs, Dolphins, right? So here's my thing. We're 2-6. Are there winnable games left on the schedule? Yes. Is it going to be easy? No. For me,
9-8. I think we finish 9-8. We sneak in as the 7.
I'm completely the opposite of you. I think the Browns win 3 more games. I think the Browns finish the year 5-11 on the season.
5-12.
Or yeah, I'm sorry, 5-12. You're right, and I think that would. I think that puts us in a spot. We're not going to be picking 1. We're not going to be picking 2. I still think the Browns are going to be picking in the top 10. I think if I had to put money on it today, I think we're picking anywhere from 5 to 8, somewhere in there. Which is kind of the argument here. There's a lot of people, a lot of Browns fans pissed because they think, okay, well, we're going to miss out on a quarterback now. I think we're getting way too ahead of ourselves. I think this is the NFL, right? Love Jameis. Love him to death. Okay?
Drew Aller.
I don't think he comes out.
I don't think so either, but if he does, Drew Aller. If not, next year, Drew Aller.
See, this is gonna be an ongoing thing throughout the rest of the year. My thing is, I think we got to temper expectations. I think we're riding high after finally some enthusiasm. I think we got to kind of chill out. Let's just wait and see how it plays out. I still don't think the Browns are gonna turn it around and go all the way. Crazier things have happened. Don't get me wrong, but at the point we're at, and the teams left on the schedule, I personally don't see us doing that. That's just me. But, Tony, it is time for the most coveted award in the world. It is time for the most prestigious award in the world.
Honky of the week? Who is it, Derek?
Honky of the week this week. Not shockingly, is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is honky of the week this week. Why, you might ask? Well, Aaron Rodgers, in his weird methods of supposedly continuing to play well at football, even though that hasn't really happened.
Yeah, no, he hasn't played well in a Jets uniform once. He's the worst Jet disaster in New York. So, well,
okay. Okay. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers apparently has some sort of new regimen where he puts some sort of spice in his water.
Cayenne pepper.
Cayenne pepper. Okay, I'm glad we figured that out. Cayenne pepper in his water and drinks it, and that's his remedy, I guess. Does it work? No.
I guess it's better than going off into the woods to do ayahuasca.
Fair enough, I guess. But yeah, congratulations, Aaron Rodgers, for winning the coveted honky of the week. Something tells me it won't be your last. So, unfortunately, we have to shift gears.
Now to move on to some sad news. We lost a Cleveland sports legend prior to the game on Sunday. And when Derek said the thing about divine intervention earlier, man, did it really feel like it when Kyle Hamilton dropped that football. It was almost like Jim Donovan was there and just knocked it right out of his hands on multiple interception attempts for the Baltimore Ravens. And Jim Donovan has been the voice of the Cleveland Browns since they came back to Cleveland back in the 90s. And he is exactly that. He is a legend. He is the guy that is synonymous with Cleveland sports, as long with Tom Hamilton. But Cleveland has truly been blessed. And let's not forget Fred McLeod as well. Another great voice of Cleveland sports, notably the Cavs. We may not have the best sports teams in the world year after year, but we definitely have some of the best voices that we get to sit and, listen to and get enjoyment off of. And even in a 2-14 season or, the 0-16 season, he always made it interesting. He always made it fun. He always gave you something to be happy about, and he will be sorely missed. And it just doesn't even feel the same listening to the Browns on the radio anymore.
Yeah. This news was tough. It was tough. And just to put it into perspective, the news dropped. Jim passed away from his battle with cancer at age 68 on Saturday afternoon. And my coworker comes over to me and she says, "Hey, did you hear a Browns announcer died?" And I was like, "What? Like, what do you mean?" And then it clicked. And I was just absolutely gut-wrenched. And, to my other coworkers, they were making fun of me because I was legitimately hurt and sad by this news.
Let's just we cried. I'm sure we both did. I'm sure many other fucking Cleveland Browns fans around the world did. I know I did. I mean, it was it's heartbreaking, and I'd be remiss not to try and find some sort of humor in this. The Cleveland Browns were so fucking bad. That was just he couldn't do it anymore, man. And
I knew you were gonna do something.
Derek, sometimes you gotta laugh so you don't cry, man. I'm ready to cry. I'm ready to cry again right now just talking about it. I mean, it sucks, and I couldn't think of a better way to honor him than picking up that win on Sunday like we did. And like I said, it's never going to be the same listening to Browns games. It hasn't the entire season, but he's got the best seat, and not to be corny, but he definitely has the best seat in the house on Sundays now. Mm-hmm. And whatever happens the rest of this season, it sucks. Like, that's always going to be there. It's like, he passed away mid-season. He wasn't able to do what he loved to do anymore, and it's awful. But, like, great guy, great legacy. Again, will surely be missed. And who gives a fuck if your coworkers are going to make fun of you for that's stupid. Mm-hmm. They don't understand. They don't get it. Like,
well, my point being in saying this is I don't think people truly understand. When you have when you have an impact on a large group of people, it's felt. It's felt. I've seen it many times. And Jim Jim is sincerely, this gets oversaid, but Jim is quite literally one of a kind. You mentioned it. There was a lot of very hard, very tough seasons for the Browns, and I can't give you one example um, of him being negative. I can't give you one example of him um, being just down and out with this team. There, the love and the appreciation and the care that he put into a team that unfortunately just didn't give back most of the time will never be forgotten. And to me, Jim was the Browns from a media perspective. Jim Donovan was the Cleveland Browns, not just on the call, but the spirit and the soul and the energy of that team. Jim brought more than just his voice. And what really sucks is, you look back and it's like all the tough things and all the tough times. And the one call that is just will forever live on in Cleveland Browns history is the playoff call. And Jim says the line, all that's missing now is all of you. And all I want for this team is let's move in the right direction. Let's get this right going forward. And as hard as it's going to be, all that's going to be missing is him at the helm, calling it. And we owe that to Jim for all the years, all the tough time of calling this team through the 0-16, the 1-15. He was here when the Browns came back. He became the voice of the Browns. You already said that, but and there's no better way for this team, for this organization, for this city to honor Jim Donovan than to succeed. And I think about all the great members of the Cleveland sports media and the guys that have passed on, and we talk about, in our lifetime, are we ever going to see one? The question of if, in my opinion, that's not what it should be. It needs to be when. Because we owe the great people who have had a legacy with this city, a legacy with this team. We owe it to them to get this figured out. Obviously, praying for the family, praying for the Browns community. This is like, this really is one of the toughest things to deal with, because quite literally can't say a negative thing about the man. And one of the biggest regrets, we've had the privilege to talk to a lot of people, and Jim Donovan was one of them that I always wanted to get to shake his hand. But now, just praying for him, praying for the family, and he will never be forgotten. And I think the Haslams did a great job with everything, with the tributes. It's hard to watch. Just even seeing his picture on the screen right now is hard. But
like you said, the best way to pay tribute to this man is just win football games. It's that simple. I mean,
new stadium, that needs to be the Jim Donovan press box.
Fuck waiting for the new stadium. It needs to be renamed immediately.
Yeah. So, obviously this is tough, and it's unfortunate but it stays true. Cherish the ones you love and appreciate them. But yeah, we'll love Jim forever. We'll appreciate him forever. And, all we can say is thank you. Thank you for all the memories. Thank you for all the moments. Thank you for carrying this team through some really bad times. And thank you for the joy, being the voice behind the joy of the good times. So, love you, Jim. So, I don't really know how we close out from this other than to say, go Browns. Let's turn this
Go
thing around.
Browns. We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.